News Radio 700 WLW.
We don't take joy in kind of bashing our friends, the Gen Zers, but damn it, they make it so easy sometimes.
Yeah.
And the latest is, I guess, kind of a trend with the Gen Z crowd of lying on your resume. Now, I've always thought that was a terrible idea, but apparently the Gen Z folk are not only lying on their resumes, but giving advice to other people of, you know, that's what you should do.
And they go on TikTok. It's like, dude, we can see your face. Like, your boss is probably going to watch this. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, some things don't make sense. Well, maybe our next guest can make a little sense of it. Her name is Brenda Siri. She is a hiring expert. Brenda, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing today?
We are great. So in your long, illustrious career as a hiring expert, is it ever a good idea to lie on a resume? Explain.
No.
I'm shocked by that answer, actually.
You've ever had, right? Yeah, no, it's absolutely not. And I will tell you that I don't know this person that made this TikTok video, but I would almost guarantee that to what you both just said, his face is on TikTok.
Yeah.
His boss is going to find out, right? His name's now out there on the internet. So his career is probably crashed at this point. But, you know, to him and to other Gen Zers, I think that this trend of lying on your resume, you know, we've got AI, right? I actually interviewed someone a few weeks ago that has 20 plus years of industry experience. And he said, hey, I've had AI make 3 resumes for me. Can I send them all to you and you tell me which one you like the best? And I said, where's your authenticity? I mean, when you let technology write your resume for you, it's only grabbing what it can based on other people's resumes and the internet. But your resume and your interview and everything that you do to get a job should be authentic. It should be about who you are and what experience you have.
Now, I mean, AI is, I mean, that's a whole other issue. And people keep telling me that AI is a useful way to enhance what you do at work. Bull crap. It is doing the work for you, right? Like, I mean, people are doing it a lot of times because they're lazy. And it's, you know, and to your point, there's no authenticity, there's no creativity. And you know, people say, hey, if I just pump it in there, I'll save myself an hour of, you know, actually using my brain and thinking.
Right.
But Brenda, let me ask you this: in what ways do people lie on a resume? Like what are there common places of, like, is it like past job experience? Is it, you know, college degrees maybe they don't have? What's the common thing?
You know, I would say the common thing is this: when there are gaps in employment, people will call a friend that owns a company and say, hey, can you just say I worked there so I don't have a gap in employment, or, you know, that kind of stuff. Right. Or maybe someone knows someone who owns a company and they'll ask them to help out, you know, or I see a lot of, well, I owned my own company for a while and I, you know, did some consulting. Those are easy lies to tell on a resume, to be quite honest. But typically, you know, the people that get away with that stuff, you know, they're not going after higher level jobs, right? They're going for lower level jobs, more of entry level jobs, or jobs that are with companies who aren't going to run background checks on them, because background checks typically will find those liars pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I was reading through this material and research in this, and I just got this feeling of, do people even call former employers anymore? Like, does the new boss call the old boss, or is that something that just doesn't happen anymore? Are they just taking these kids' words for it?
Typically, it depends on the company. A lot of companies have technology, essentially, that they can call out to companies. Those companies will have a specific number that you can call. You get an answer, and they'll verify, yes, a person worked here, no, a person didn't. But companies are very leery of giving, you know, bad feedback if someone was a bad employee, for fear of that person who was let go for performance or something coming after them for wrecking their life by telling someone that they weren't a good employee. So companies kind of will just be very generic. Yes, they worked here. No, they didn't. You can ask, would you rehire them? They can say yes or no. But those type of things exist. And there are people, I am one of them, when I place people at companies, I do make those those in-person reference checks, but I do them by video so I can see the person's face, so I can compare that face to who's
smart.
on LinkedIn, so I can see that they really did work at that company. Because there are people who will say, hey guys, I've got a job offer coming. Would you give me a reference? And you may have never worked with them, but they'll, tell a lie and say you did. So there's all kinds of crafty things people do.
Brenda Siri is our guest. She's a hiring expert. She's the president and CEO of Corporate Connections, over 20 years of experience in this field. And Mike asked about former bosses. What about, like recommendations or people that, they say, look, give me a list of people that, can vouch for you. Do companies use that anymore? Do they often use that or what?
Yes, they do. There are some that do and some that don't, to be quite honest. I typically believe that the best references come from someone that you have worked with that maybe was your peer. If it's a management position, someone that you've managed, and of course your former boss, right? So you can kind of get different perspectives. Now, talking about lying on a resume, I'll tell you a story. There was a position about 5 or 6 years ago that I was working on a C-suite position for a company, and this woman interviewed with me very well. I moved her forward to my client. She went through 3 levels of interviews with them, and they all agreed she was the one for the job. So then I asked her for her references, and I asked for those types of references. And former manager, I called her and started talking with her, asking very specific questions. Is she capable of doing this? Does she have experience doing this? And the former boss got very quiet. And I knew right away something was wrong. What was wrong was that this woman had essentially stole her former boss's resume and made it her own.
Oh my!
Wow,
so,
that's pretty brazen.
Yes, and so it is very important for companies to get references, because it costs a company about 40% of a person's annual salary if you make the wrong hire, and you bring someone in and you invest in training them, and then you lose them because of lying, or you didn't take the time to get those reference checks done. It's so critical for companies to do that.
Let me ask you this, and this is sort of off topic, but and just reading about this kind of stuff, it basically saying that if you're interviewing for a new job, you shouldn't be honest about, if you're coming from a really bad environment, if you were in a place where it's just not a good work environment, to essentially not necessarily lie about that, but maybe try to brush it over. And I guess, people don't want to lie. I mean, if they're coming from a bad position, I guess that's kind of a tightrope. What would you suggest?
I would also suggest you don't want to badmouth your former employer, or even if you're at a current employer and you're trying to get out, because maybe, the company is having financial problems and running things into the ground. You don't want to say negative things about a past or current employer. It's just better to say, I'm looking for a new challenge. I'm looking for a new opportunity. I really want to stretch myself. There's a positive spin you can put on anything. So I would highly advise against talking bad about employers in general.
So, Brenda, we live in the, people's attention spans in today's world is next to none, right? So what's your advice for listeners out there when they're making their resume? You can't put everything on there. You want to highlight certain things. What are maybe the top 2 or 3 things that you should not only list, but maybe list right at the beginning that is enticing for most employers?
I think most employers want to know, first and foremost, a highlight of your specialization, the skills that you bring to that specific job that you're applying to. So, it's nice to have bullet points at the top. These are the things I specialize in. You want to make sure that when you are listing out your employment history, don't just say, I worked here from 2020 to 2022. Put the month you started and the month you ended, because that's going to tell an employer, truly, were you just there for, 6 months of 1 year? Were you there for 2 full years? That's something employers want to know. I think that obviously it's important to make bullet points of, what you did in that job, and always make sure that when you apply for a job, you've really looked at the job description and you actually are qualified for that role. Because I get resumes all day long from people and I'm just baffled. I think, did they read the job description? They're not even slightly qualified, so really make sure that you are qualified. And you can always use buzzwords that are in a job description. If it says specifically, we want someone that can do X, you can use that X word on your resume if that's something you know how to do.
Yeah, and I was going to ask too, and I'm not sure if these kids are just outright making up, false past employment or something like that, but something I've seen, and maybe I'm a little bit guilty of it, especially in the past, but maybe puffing up, so to speak, but not actually lying. I think of an example. I had a friend of mine who was essentially a landscaper at a facility, and he put something down like landscape technician engineer or something like that. So, is there something that you don't want to write, hey, I cut grass for a living. So, is there some sort of happy medium there, or?
I think that if gosh, that's a tough one, right? Because if somebody calls and says, hi, so was Joe a landscape technician? Someone might say, yeah.
I bet he ran the lawnmower, right?
Oh, yeah, Joe, the guy who pushed the lawnmower.
Right, exactly. So, you do have to be careful. You don't want to say you were the president of a company if you were really a senior director, right? So you've got to be careful with that. I think that, some of what I've seen is people saying things like, they have experience maybe in technology, right? They have experience with Java, which is a language, right? And maybe they have experience, but it's only experience they gained while they were in college getting a degree, and they've never used it in a work environment. So, I think that's the kind of puffing up you may see as well.
Brenda, earlier you were talking about AI and how it's being used, and we're finding out every day more and more ways it's being used in a truthful and helpful way. What are some ways that people can use AI to help not just their resume, but help them maybe get that job that they desperately want?
I think that AI, it's here to stay. And in my opinion, it's a tool. It's a tool to help maybe enhance the way you write something, the way you talk. I had one day where I was like, what is the word I'm looking for? And I went to AI and kind of typed in, and then it gave me the word. And that's what it should be used for, is to be a tool to maybe just help enhance communication. So it also scares me because, like I said, in the beginning, it takes away a person's authenticity and their voice. So I would just encourage people to use it more as a tool, and not rely on it for everything, because it doesn't know everything. I don't know if you guys have done this. I recently did this. I put my name into AI just to see what it would come up with. And very quickly, it gave me a huge dissertation on Brenda Siri. But the fact of the matter is everything I read, it was, that's just stuff that's out on the internet, right? It didn't know anything about me personally. It didn't know how tall I was. It didn't know how many children I have. And that's danger in AI. It's just a faster search engine of information that's already out there.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Well, Brenda, listen, this has been great. Really appreciate your time. If folks want to find out more about you, where can they go? What can they do?
They can go to my website, corporateconnectionsllc.com. I think I'm the only Brenda Siri on LinkedIn. You can always connect with me there as well.
All right, Brenda, you're the best. Thank you so much. We'll do it again.
You bet. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.